All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're setting the stage for a really fascinating, almost cinematic deep dive into a hospitality disaster that proves just how incredibly fast things can go wrong. You know, we often look at luxury resorts and we just see the polished marble and the perfectly plated food, but today, we're pulling back the curtain on a fictional, yet entirely realistic, case study, the Amber Trail Resort and Spa. We're going to examine a massive, cascading operational failure, look at the strict guidelines of India's Food Safety and Standards Authority, or FSSAI, and basically watch a full-blown crisis unfold in real time. But before we plunge into the pristine facade of our case study, I want you to consider this thought. Food safety is not an option. It is the foundation of hospitality excellence. It's a heavy statement, right? Well, we're about to see exactly what happens when that foundation literally cracks. Because honestly, it doesn't matter how beautiful your property is or how brilliant your marketing team might be. If you fail at this basic fundamental level, the whole shebang is at risk. Okay, Section 1. Welcome to Amber Trail.
So the Amber Trail is a gorgeous 118-key 4-star property located right in the Aravalli foothills near the Manesar-Sona belt of Haryana. But let's talk about where their money actually comes from, because their revenue is heavily concentrated. A massive 60% comes from corporate MICE. That stands for meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibits. Another 25% is from weekend wellness and spa packages, and the remaining 15% is driven by weddings and social events. The takeaway here? Corporate contracts are the absolute lifeblood of this resort. If they lose the trust of those corporate clients, they lose the vast majority of their income. It's really that simple.
And to get that revenue, they've built a very specific, very polished brand. Amber Trail is positioned as a high-end, farm-to-fork wellness retreat. They're targeting high-income guests, usually aged 28 to 55, who care deeply about what they put in their bodies. We're talking calorie transparency, all those clean label claims, and a huge focus on wellness. The marketing team has worked tirelessly to build this luxurious, health-conscious vibe. Now keep this pristine, health-focused image in your mind. Hold on to it, because it creates a really stark contrast with the grim operational reality we're about to uncover.
Moving right along to Section 2, the corporate banquet incident. Picture this. It's the second week of March 2026. The resort's KSAR Banquet Hall is hosting a 350-cover corporate offsite dinner for a major tech company's leadership meet. This is a massive, high-stakes event, but the fallout, it is rapid and it is terrifying. Just 18 hours after that dinner, 42 of those 350 guests report severe gastrointestinal illness. Nausea, cramping, vomiting. Several even have to go to the hospital. The tech company publicly escalates the issue immediately. And just 48 hours after the dessert is cleared, a local health department and FSSAI inspection team are standing right there in the resort's kitchen. It is wild how quickly a fancy buffet can become a public health emergency.
Section 3. The kitchen autopsy.
If we break this down like a true crime autopsy, what the inspectors find is just grim. This was not just one little whoops moment. For starters, an egg mayonnaise salad dressing was left sitting out at room temperature for roughly 5 hours. 5 hours, that's a massive violation for sensitive foods. Then, the chicken tikka, it was part cooked 8 hours prior and barely reheated, totally failing to reach safe core temperatures. Crucially, there was zero critical control point, or CCP, monitoring happening. No temperature logs for the holding equipment. Oh, and they also found an ant trail near the dry store, an expired food color on the shelves, but perhaps the most damning detail of all? Probe thermometers were sitting right there on the equipment rack, completely unused. This wasn't bad luck. This was a complete, systemic process breakdown.
And naturally, this immediately sparks a massive internal conflict. On one side, you've got executive chef Rohan Kapoor. He's been there for 6 years, and he is playing defense. He claims this is just a one-off error by an inexperienced casual steward, and basically insists, hey, we've always worked this way. But on the flip side, F&B director Meenal Bhatia is calling it exactly what it is, a systemic failure. She comes with receipts. She points out that the stewarding department has a 38% attrition rate over the past year because of grueling shifts and terrible pay compared to their competitors. Plus, absolutely no formal HACCP training, that's hazard analysis and critical control points. This dynamic right here, it brilliantly illustrates that crisis management is just as much about workplace culture and human resources as it is about health codes. You literally cannot separate the two.
Let's look at Section 4, the business fallout.
As you'd expect, this failure caused immediate, brutal financial damage, starting with a devastating plunge in room occupancy. Before this nightmare, the resort was cruising at a very healthy 71% occupancy. But post-incident, as the rumors of the illness spread, it plummeted to just 54%. That is a massive chunk of empty rooms for a property that depends on high-volume bookings.
And the hit to their reputation was just as fast. Pre-incident, they held a really respectable 4.3 Google rating. Not bad at all, but within just 2 weeks, thanks to a cluster of highly visible, very angry negative reviews mentioning the food poisoning, that rating crashed to a 3.1. And look, in the hospitality industry where guests rely almost entirely on reviews to book a stay, a 3.1 rating is absolutely radioactive.
But I want to show you the true cost of cutting corners. 42 lakh rupees. That is exactly how much revenue evaporated into thin air when 3 different corporate accounts immediately canceled their confirmed forward bookings. Remember that revenue breakdown we talked about earlier? When your business is 60% corporate mice, losing multiple corporate accounts in one single blow, that is a staggering financial sting.
And the deeper financial bleeding, honestly, it's catastrophic. As panic sets in, management slashes the average daily rate, or ADR, dropping it from 8,200 rupees down to 6,500, just trying desperately to protect their booking volume. This move totally crashes their RevPAR, revenue per available room, from 5,822 down to 3,510 rupees. And to top it all off, their food cost actually jumps from 31% to 36%. Why? Because of rush replacement purchasing and just massive wastage from an overly cautious kitchen that starts overproducing food in a total panic. Their profit margins are being crushed from literally every conceivable angle.
Which brings us to Section 5, the manager's dilemma.
Imagine being the general manager right now. Arjun Sandhi has an overwhelming amount of crises converging on his desk all at once. He's got a 15-day formal improvement notice from FSSAI. If he fails that, his banquet license gets suspended. Game over. He's also got a massive 65 lakh rupee wedding contracted for Kesar Hall that the sales team is absolutely terrified of losing. Meanwhile, audits show 12% of banquet food goes unserved anyway due to poor forecasting, and guests are getting annoyed with the resort's single-use plastics. And the ultimate, painful irony of it all? Right in the middle of this basic, bare minimum hygiene crisis, the marketing team is still aggressively pushing to reposition the menu around clean label wellness food. The kitchen staff feels this is completely tone-deaf when their core systems are already buckling under the pressure.
The most stressful part is the incredibly tight deadlines Arjun is up against. The clock is loudly ticking. Step 1. He has exactly 1 week to formulate a survival and response plan to present to the board. Step 2. He has just 15 days to satisfy those FSSAI inspectors and prove the kitchen is safe again. Step 3. He has 5 weeks to figure out if they are actually genuinely capable of safely hosting that 65 lakh rupee wedding without risking a second disaster.
So, I have to ask, what would you do if you were the general manager? How do you possibly balance the immediate, desperate need to survive a health audit with the long-term, much harder need to fix a broken, underpaid kitchen culture? Do you cancel a lucrative wedding to play it safe? Or do you push through and risk another massive public health failure?
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to think about the massive undertaking ahead of this resort. How do you go about identifying failed control points while simultaneously overhauling a toxic kitchen culture that's driving a 38% turnover rate? And even if you fix the kitchen, how do you ever win back guest trust when your reputation is already completely tanked? You know, food safety isn't just a line item on a budget spreadsheet, it's the foundation. And as Amber Trail just proved to us, when you cut corners on that foundation, the entire resort comes tumbling down. So the question I'll leave you with is this: what corner is your business taking for granted today?